Call this meeting to order. I want to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the land on which we are meeting is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. As a council and a municipality, we will continue to work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'll ask for a motion for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on April 28th, 2025 be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Doyle. All those in favor? And that is carried. We have no delegations this evening. We'll move right into opening public hearing request for variation PC 20-25 McCabe at 102 First Street Southwest. I'll ask if there is anyone here to speak in favor of this application. If you want to come to the mic and state your name for the record.
My name's Andrea McCabe. I'm an owner of the property.
Perfect. You're free to give a statement, answer questions, whatever you want to do.
Do I have to keep pressing this thing?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dear members of council, I'm here in support of my mother-in-law's application for the variance related to the development of a secondary suite, a reduction in the rear yard setback from 5 feet to 1.8 feet, and a reduction in the side yard setback from 5 feet to 3.4 feet for a building that was already constructed. A variance for secondary suite size from 807 square feet to 975 square feet to permit continued existence of a structure that now exceeds the floor area limit imposed under a new secondary suite bylaw passed after construction. We respectfully submit that this variance application is necessary and reasonable. Here is some background on the project. Prior to the purchase of the property, we consulted with the city's planning department and were advised the proposed garage living quarters could be constructed on the same footprint as the previous carriage house, which had existed for decades. At this time, no variance was required for the side or rear yard setback or size of the suite. The only variance that was required was for height. We were originally advised to apply for an R2 zoning amendment to allow residential use. Later, that guidance shifted, and we were directed to pursue legalization under a new secondary suite bylaw. We followed this new path. Since construction, a floor area restriction was introduced under the new bylaw along with the side and rear yard requirements, which the building now exceeds. The structure was built in accordance with consultation with the planning district at all stages. These are a justification for the requested variance. The building follows the original footprint of the former carriage house and does not increase the intensity of land use. It is actually built further back from the southern property than the original carriage house was. A permanent hydro right-of-way exists between the properties on the east side, maintaining visual and physical separation from the adjacent lot. Relocating the structure farther from the lot line would actually reduce the southerly neighbor's usable yard space and compromise their privacy. We have installed both professionally fire-rated shutters and on the east and south facing windows, as well as fire-rated drywall on the east and south interior walls to protect neighboring properties. The neighborhood is mixed in character, including large homes, duplexes, and apartment buildings. The structure is consistent with the established diversity and does not introduce any new or inappropriate use. For the building size variance, the building was completed before the current floor area limits were introduced. Reducing the structure's size now would be impractical, costly, and unnecessary. The unit is safe and consistent with surrounding homes. It was designed to house my mother-in-law who is in need of affordable, secure accommodation, directly aligning with the city's own goals in the development plan. Denial would unfairly penalize a good faith effort to comply with the changing city guidance. I'd like to mention that this project is consistent with the city's development plan. It maintains character while expanding the housing diversity. It supports housing mix and affordability, context sensitive with infill development, enabling supportive housing, and strengthening community resilience. Denying variances for a structure that is already built and approved and aligns with the city's development plan, especially knowing that my mother-in-law cannot afford to relocate it, would be disheartening. Variations are routinely approved by council for nearly every property. We understand the neighboring property owners are not all currently supportive. However, we believe the variances pose negligible impact, especially considering the hydro right-of-way ensures permanent separation for the rear yard variance. The building is safe, new construction, fire shutters, fire-rated drywall. The building's form and use remain consistent with the neighborhood character. We are open to reasonable mitigation measures or conditions to address any lingering concerns. And a concern from the previous council meeting was our relationship with our neighbors. Throughout this process, we have made sincere and repeated efforts to connect with our neighbors and address concerns. We've invited neighbors to tour the suite in person to foster transparency and understanding. We followed up with formal written invitation to meet, review permits, and clarify situation to date. Those that chose to come and review the permits and applications have since changed their minds and now support the project. We have approached all surrounding neighbors personally on more than one occasion to open dialogue and offer resolution. My husband spoke with both Mr. Neufeld and Mr. Rosnagel after the last council meeting and for this project on April 24th, 2025, to let them know that Joanne was applying again. While not all relationships have been restored, we believe these steps reflect our sincere commitment to being good neighbors and resolving tensions in a constructive way. In conclusion, I'd like to say this situation has arisen from inconsistent planning district guidance, evolving bylaws, and mistakes made on our part. Most importantly, this unit was created to house my mother-in-law, who has been homeless for almost 7 years. She remains without a secure home solely because of ongoing denials. We acknowledge that certain missteps were made, including not informing our neighbors about the project sooner and proceeding with plumbing installation during the uncertainty of COVID-19. This decision was made out of urgency, not out of disregard, and we deeply regret any frustration or concern this may have caused. We recognize that we have been judged based on our actions rather than our intentions, but we want to be clear. Our intentions were never to harm or hurt anyone. Every step we took was driven by a desire to care for our family under difficult and rapidly changing circumstances. Since that time, we have taken significant corrective actions while facing demolition threats and to remove all plumbing, faced multiple denials, neighborhood tensions, some fueled by misinformation, and have seen a similar property approved for use without proper permits. This entire process has placed an enormous emotional and financial strain on my mother-in-law, affecting not only her, but also our children and extended relatives, all of whom are deeply concerned about her well-being. We respectfully ask council to approve these variances, given that the suite has already been approved for residential use. The structure is safe, fire-rated, and occupies a long-standing footprint. The hydro right-of-way ensures permanent separation from neighbors on the east side. Relocating the building would reduce neighbor privacy, not improve it. The area is already mixed in character. This is not an outlier. No additional strain on municipal services will result. Unit provides needed senior housing, a city priority. Approval increases property value and tax revenue for the city. And denial prolongs unnecessary harm to Joanne, and a long-standing member of this community that has done her utmost to comply. So the situation has divided a neighborhood over a family-centered solution. We ask for resolution, compassion, and the opportunity to bring this chapter to a close. We are not seeking a special treatment, only the ability to house Joanne in a building built for her with care and intention. I have included photos of the property, the original R2 application, a copy of our building location certificate, and a copy of the East property owner's statutory easement. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you. If you just want to stay there, Ms. McCabe. Does council have any questions? Councillor Meyer?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I got a couple of questions, but first of all, do we have a copy of that?
No. Yeah.
May I please have a copy of that, if that's possible?
Do you have copies of that?
No, I just had given.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're on the stick. So
Yeah.
we can get it emailed to us, right, at some point?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
It's just showing how all the houses in the neighborhood look into everyone's yard, especially our yard. We have backyards facing our front yard, our side yard, our east yard. This is the hydro right-of-way between Rosnagel's and the back of the property.
Councillor Doyle?
Sorry, Ms. McCabe, can you, I'm not familiar with which neighbor is who, but Can you just explain in that last picture,
This
is that east?
This is the rear, the rear yard
Okay, so
variance.
to the
Yes.
east of the property?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Ms. McCabe, for your presentation, and certainly a difficult issue. And from the last council meeting, direction was to talk to the neighbors, which sounds like you have, and to put together a plan that they could come together with you that would help solve this problem. You've indicated you did talk to them, and
Yeah, and Mr. Ross.
sorry, I just want to finish.
Sorry.
But was a plan presented to them, and if so, what was that plan?
We said that we would take the east trough down, or, is that correct? Yeah, I didn't have the conversation with Mr. Rossnagel, but my husband did. He can speak to that, about what he spoke to them about. I don't want to speak out of turn.
Okay. Can you, are you done? Sorry.
Like, are you,
Yeah.
do you want to know, like,
So-
they don't want to see the plans. They don't want to sit down with us. They don't,
So after the last meeting?
Yeah.
So that was the conversation of after the last meeting, was that you would reach out to them, and so
and we did.
you did that. Did you say in writing, even like a written invitation
We've
to
done
them?
that, yes. In the past, we have done that.
Like since
and
since the last
no,
one?
Justin went and spoke with them
Okay.
both, and they have no desire to sit down and talk about it.
Okay. Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Ms. McCabe. Did you present a plan to them?
Did Mr. McKay?
A plan
Shit,
for
yeah,
what?
yeah.
A plan for what, though?
So what the changes you would make that would work on what some of their concerns were with the, because it came up in the last meeting that there could be construction that was done to change things to fit into better into what the variance was. Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Your Worship. If for a bit of a clarification. you
Sorry, I'm
talked
just
about-
going to just
sorry.
say one thing though,
Yep.
sorry, is Mr. McCabe, if you're going to come up, you just have to state your name and then answer questions, okay? Just so it's on the record, okay?
Thank you, Your Worship. So just, you mentioned briefly there about eave troughs. Have you explored the option of possibly structurally, in terms of where we're running into the problems with the variance on the sidage is obviously the part of it is the overhang, correct, in the building, if I'm not correct? So have we looked at, mitigating that variance in terms of bringing the soffits back to a certain, has that been presented or
Yes,
discussed?
and Mr. Rossnagel stated that we would be shooting ourselves in the foot if we did that. He
Councillor?
does, it's not a big deal to him anymore, from what he told us.
Councillor Porter?
Okay, I've got a couple of questions here, or actually a comment first. So you and Justin were not at the council meeting in August of 24 when the variation was turned down. And it was unfortunate that you weren't present there because we had some questions and some of them could not be answered. It was highly suggested by council last August to come forth with a solution or resolution worked out with yourselves, planning, as well as the residents in the area who were opposed to this application. You said you had further dialogue or discussions with a resolution between you and the area residents. I guess if Justin or yourselves had a conversation with their neighbors, has anything changed? Or was it just a discussion? Was there any solution or?
State your name.
Thank you.
Justin McCabe.
Yep.
Is that all I need to say, Shirley?
Yeah, and just, yeah.
I would like to speak to some of the rejection.
Oh,
notices
I've just got
after,
some.
But if you would like.
Yeah,
me to
I just want
answer
some
to you.
questions
Sure.
answered first. Yeah. So you had a conversation with your neighbors?
Yep.
And the neighbors that were opposing this application, not supporting it, but the ones who were opposing it. So it was suggested, and did you watch YouTube? Because you missed that last meeting?
I did.
You watched it? Good,
You betcha.
perfect. Okay, so it was highly suggested by council to come forth with a solution or resolution with the planning and yourselves, the residents in the area who oppose this. Did you have any further dialogue with your neighbors since August?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and did you
gotta
happen to
talk into the mic there, Justin?
Okay, yeah. And in that conversation, was there a resolution or any solution that you, between the two parties or your three parties, did you come up with anything?
I would say yes.
Okay, and what was the solution?
The solution was to do nothing.
Okay, my second of all, did you go to planning district to get, have a conversation with them to see what solution or resolution you could, that they suggested? Because I do know that at that August 4th council meeting,
Yep.
that planning district, the planning district manager, Grant, stated that there were solutions possible.
Yep.
Okay, and so that, my question, and of course planning's not here, but, so did you go to planning at all to find out any of those solutions?
Actually, I invited Grant over and I had him over to the house. I hung a string line from each one of the corners of the eave, so it came over the eaves trough itself and hung down outside of, so we could have a plumb bob to the fence of Mr. Rossnagel's, sorry, I'm not speaking into the mic, to Rossnagel's yard. He's put a fence up, which not allowed to have a fence there because it's a hydro easement, regardless, not a concern of mine. Just as the trough itself is not a concern of his. So I've had the communication with Grant, and I had him over the house. I showed him where the string lines are. He took some pictures of it. I'm not sure if he's presented that to you guys or not, but we have an actual survey. The actual survey states 4 to 5 inches. He brought a survey last time that was a recommended survey that is not a stamped survey, so we have to have a stamped survey. So it's 4 to 5 inches. I recognize this. The property, if I took a string and I laid it out to Joe now, you know, it would be about
Mike.
where his elbow is on the table at one corner of the property. If you could scroll up, I'll show you where that would be. Keep going up, sorry. And you can see one of these strings, actually I'll point out, I don't have a laser, but one of the strings is hanging, oh, maybe you can't see it, but it's there, you can see his fence. And the other one is at the back corner of the property, and you can see how that actually narrows down, okay? So the concern today actually isn't that 4 or 5 inches, in my opinion. The current concern today is, are you, as council members, willing to provide a yes answer towards this application? Because we have neighbors that have never written a letter to council outside of council meeting, never written to our mayor, never had a concern about any noise or any issue on the property, or until we reapply. Now, this side here, which is the area of concern, has a hydro right-of-way on it as well. So regardless if we like or dislike this, there was a mistake in my cement work that laid the property out, and the property line goes on an angle. So the garage is perpendicular with the house exactly where it is. It's just unfortunate that, as you can see, if you go to the actual layout of the property, you'll see that the building does override his property, not the building, sorry, my apologies, the trough 20 feet in the air. So currently you're all seeing me, correct? Does your peripheral vision at about a 16-foot height show the ceiling above you, and does it cause a problem today?
Okay, that's not the question I'm asking you, though. I'm
No.
not worried, like, what I'm asking you is, did you have a solution between the planning, yourself, and your neighbors?
Yes.
Not what you think that people should understand or believe or whatever it is. We wanted you to come up with a solution through planning
Right.
and the neighbors that were opposed to this, and come up with a great solution. And planning themselves said there is a solution. So at this point, what you're telling me is nothing's changed, correct?
No, lots has changed, actually. I got open dialogue with my neighbor. I've gone to his door. We've had great communications. He even says that in his letter. I've gone to Ken Neufeld. I've spoke with him openly. I didn't speak with Judson's. I see they're here tonight. It doesn't affect their property in any way, shape, or form. I think they're upset about the process, and I think we're all upset about the process. Unfortunately, that's what's landed us here, is that originally we got an R2 application that allowed the building to be exactly where it is. After the fact, we were told that we want to create a new application that McCabe's don't no longer qualify for, so you're gonna have to come back again. And that's why we keep coming back.
Councillor Port, you good? Yeah. Councillor Espy?
Mr. McCabe, I'm going to ask you this because you keep referring back to the R2 application, but this didn't start with an R2 application. It started with an application to build a garage with a storage space. And I think that it should be known that that wasn't done with the best intentions in mind either, because it was always the intention to make it a residence. That's why it was built on the space it was, the way it was, because that would allow you to build it closer to the property line. We've had these conversations over the years, and it's always been the same. It was the process that the neighbors had a problem with, and they still seem to.
Correct.
And we also, Your Worship, if I may, cannot take hearsay on what these neighbors have said to the McCabes and have it presented to us like it is fact.
That's right. It's not fact. Yeah, and we'll read the letters. So, yeah.
Did you have a question?
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. McCabe? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. McCabe. I understand. I've gone through this, started in the previous council. It's quite a long story. I went through every council meeting, read the report. What I'm still trying to get my head around is the last meeting.
Yep.
It was your mother came, Mrs. McCabe, did a great job explaining things, but there were things unanswered. If there was communication, as a counselor, and if you were sitting here, you'd ask these questions. Why are 3 people objecting to this still? The same 3 people. If there was this, if you have open dialogue, I had a fight with my neighbor once, and we went and talked about it. We came up with a solution. I'm not hearing you say that. So that's what I'm struggling with. Why are there still 3 letters from these people in our council package?
Well, I'll go back to the R2 application. That's where this all started. So, Mr. Espy, I would like to speak to that. I was directed by the planning district that you will recall that I required a height variance. Without a height variance, I could not build the building. I repeated this exact same thing over and over and over. I couldn't have done it that way. So without that, I couldn't build a second floor. So I was told to do it that way. I was also told to put double 5/8 fire-rated drywall in my garage. I was also told to put fire-rated insulation in my garage. I was also told to put in my storage space 5/8 double-rated 5/8 drywall on east and south facing walls. I was also told that before I could come back to a council meeting that I had to put fire shutters in before I could even come back and reapply. Like, why would I have to put a fire shutter into my building before I come and apply? If you want to approve me based on some other things being done, I could understand that. But you cost my mother another $15,000. You know, she's homeless.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. McCabe, for reapplying. Obviously, you have every legal right to reapply because a variance is a new variance in its own merit. But just to kind of maybe echo some of my council colleagues, I just got to understand what your rationale is on if this variance was not approved. What was the original date? 5 months ago? I can't remember the date when it was last. August of, thank you, Councillor Massey. August of 2024, and nothing has changed. What would your rationale be as to think why council would approve it today? I just would like to hear your side of that story if I could.
Because I've gone and I've put out a hand to my neighbors to ask how I could make this better. So that's what's changed. I mean, I've done it in the past, but they weren't open to dialogue. So I did go to Mr. Rossnagel, and I had a wonderful conversation. Actually, I spoke with him on Mother's Day yesterday. So I spoke with him yesterday on Mother's Day. I spoke with Ken 3 days before that, and I spoke with Ken and Rossnagel Leonard right shortly after the last meeting. So I have gone and I have offered resolution, and that resolution could be that, hey, would you like me to take that down? And exactly as my wife said, no, that would be like shooting yourself in the foot. Don't do that. So there's been an offer, but no acceptance. So if you don't want to accept my offer, how do I go further? You know, I've done this whole thing based on directive from the planning district. This isn't me trying to knee-jerk circumvent the law. This isn't me, you know, so I'd like to speak to the letters that were written to me.
They're not on record yet, so we'll just wait till we get to that
Okay,
point, okay?
perfect.
Councillor Espy, did you have another, or sorry, Councillor Meyer, you weren't finished.
I know it's easy to get us confused.
sorry.
You know what? I'm going to wait until the letters are read into
Okay.
record first. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Espy?
Just to comment, Your Worship, it is highly inappropriate to stand there and say that the City Council of Portage la Prairie has costed anyone anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was the process that was followed.
Correct, thank you. Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. McCabe, the encroachment on the neighbor's property is as simple as removing an eaves trough, correct?
Yeah.
And is there any way to get the structure itself to meet the current standards that are laid out without the variance? I'm guessing probably not.
No, because that's changed since we put the building there, and everyone was aware that I didn't need a side yard then. Now I do. Everyone's aware that I complied with the interior space, and now I don't. But that application was created after the building was erected. So it would be just like me having a building or purchasing a property that has a building, and then coming to you and saying, could I apply? And if I could, what would I need to do? You'd need fire-rated drywall. You'd need yada, 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 yada. And then I go do that, and I come back, and then you say no.
Okay. So just to confirm, removal of the eaves troughs would get rid of the actual encroachment.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And
thank
that
you.
was offered to the neighbor.
Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. McCabe, removing of the eave trough would not negate the total variance, all right?
Yes,
Am I
it would.
understand completely or just the encroachment? Just the encroachment, right? It would not.
Oh,
we'd still
sorry,
need a
my
variance,
apologies,
right?
Fern.
Yeah, that's fine, right? We would still.
Could you reword what you said or re-say what you said?
Yeah, so just removal of the eave trough would simply, that would remove the encroachment, not necessarily need for the variance for the siding.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Okay,
And
good.
in-
Any other questions?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, please.
Sure, go ahead, Councillor
Thank
Meyer.
you. Sorry, just to clarify Councillor Nichols' thing, because I had the same question. The eaves trough or the overhanging into somebody else's property, how far does it extend into the property, Justin?
Not as far as my neighbor's is extended into mine, but about 4 inches.
Okay, well, I didn't need the first comment, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
But sorry, how far?
4 inches.
4 inches. So is that something that you are prepared to do to make this happen?
I think I've said that 3 times, maybe 4 now, that I've
He
gone
said
to
no.
Mr.
He said no.
Rossnagel, and
I'm
yes,
just clarifying.
I said I would. I didn't say I would not. I said I would do this, and that I have gone to the neighbor, and that I've said that 4 times.
I'm
Oh,
not,
yeah,
I'm
but
not asking you in
sorry,
regards.
he just said to do nothing, that's what I heard
Okay.
before, so, okay, yeah.
I'm not asking you about a conversation with Mr. Rossnagel. If I just asked you, are you prepared to do that to make a variance happen? I'm not saying that's all that's done because it isn't even part of the variance, right? Is that something you're prepared to do?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I misunderstood your comment. My apologies.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll ask if there is anyone else here to speak in favor of this application. If you would like to come to the mic and state your first and last name, please.
David Weeb.
Okay, mic is yours.
Okay. So I'm just kind of getting into this process now. I remember it was years ago that I think I got the first the first variance application from the McCabe's, and I didn't really understand what was happening, but I just looked at the paperwork that was sent out, and I was like, yeah, looks reasonable to me, go ahead. So I didn't get involved in the process, because if you agree, then you don't send anything in. Since then, I saw variance application after variance application come through, and I was like, goodness sakes, what kind of red tape are these guys like having to go through? As these letters kept showing up as like, oh, the McCabe's are still working on that building. What's going on? Why is that not happening? And so last fall, I was cutting down some trees just right across the backyard from their place, and got into a conversation with Justin, and ended up talking to him for quite a while about the garage and his mother's suite that they had constructed on top. And he asked if I'd like to come and see the place, so I said sure. I had a tour, and it was like, I was just dumbfounded and just so surprised by the process that he's had to go through. As it was explained to me, and I think he kind of reiterated again today, when he talked to city planning, they said, well, we should probably do it this way, put this in, and then once we're at this stage, then we'll put in the variance for that part of the thing. And so with my conversation with him, he seemed incredibly sincere about wanting to have done this properly and legally, and just that the advice that he got maybe wasn't the best advice, and because there was multiple steps in the permitting process or in the variation process, that it turned into kind of a bit of a gong show that means we're still here years and years later dealing with this issue. As a neighbor that lives a couple of houses down, having seen what he's put together, a beautiful building, he's taken great care in building something that's not just like a shanty little thing on the backside. He's building it for the benefit of having his mother live nearby with him, with them. And so I guess I don't understand why he's gone through so much red tape and why there's been so much difficulty here, because I haven't been involved in all of the processes. But just looking at it from the outside, as the paperwork that comes in the mail, I didn't see why the plan was unreasonable to begin with. And each variation request, I was like, yeah, well, why wouldn't you? I've seen all sorts of stuff like this happen all over town. As a matter of fact, I did a similar one on my place, where the variance was put in to be closer to the property line than what the standard is. And so I want to definitely speak very much in favor, and I think maybe just ask council members that have been embroiled in this process for, man, what has it been, like 5 years probably when I saw the first one? Has it been 7? Yeah, like a long time. Does it help to just take a new look at this and say, hey, like, is this guy actually doing anything really wrong, or is this just we need to say, yeah, it's okay. The beautiful building that you put up for your mother to live in, I mean, it's causing her hardship not to be there, and he's done a good job of it. And from the sounds of things, he's been asked numerous times to make changes to the building in order to have it meet the new codes, or to make a neighbor happy who seems to be very, very difficult to deal with. I think he's shown a lot of good faith in moving forward with
Thank you.
providing dollars into this project even, and trying to be honest and upfront with it.
Thank you, Mr. Weeb. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Weeb? And just so you know, the last 7 years are public record, so you're welcome to go back and
Well, I sure
yeah. So yeah,
That's
Any-
right.
Good. Oh, Counselor Meyer?
Sorry, yeah, if I could just maybe ask one question, I'll explain my rationale a little bit later. Mr. Weeb, you mentioned that you had a similar variance to your place. Can I just ask you real
Right.
quick, the steps you took in order to make that happen with your neighbors before the variance request?
Before the variance request? Oh, that was a long time ago.
It's not that important
so,
then.
So because you were my neighbor, maybe you remember exactly what my process was. I came and talked to you, and I said, this is what I want to do. Is there any problem with it? And you were very reasonable to speak to, and so I appreciated that, and we were able to go forward with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Madam
Yeah.
Worship, the story wasn't about me. It
Yeah.
was just about the applicant took the steps beforehand to have a conversation within a community. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Weeb.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, I'll ask if anyone else is here to speak in favor of the application.
I'm not sure I really want to speak. My name is Joanne McCabe, but
If
I
you,
just,
Joanne, if you could just lower it a little, you can just pull it down. There you
Thank
go.
you.
There you go.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I had written stuff, but I'm just flabbergasted that variances that cannot be changed now, when you ask about making a plan, we can't change the building. And that's the size of the suite. And the size of the suite was correct when we first ever built the building. So when you ask us, what plan have we made to appease the neighbors? We can't do that. The one on the one side, Mr. Rossnagels, is just a part of an eaves trough. The building is where the original building was. I just, in my heart of hearts, I do not understand how council and our city can actually leave me from being able to live in there when we know of another suite that was approved without any variations that should have had variations. So I do not understand why it continues to be that we have to keep coming back. I spent $7,000 to the city just for applications. The first one was $2,500 for an R2, which you couldn't even have, which was recommended by Canal. We have always followed the rule of everything that was suggested to us, built how we were supposed to build, everything was done properly. Other than the one thing we did do, and it was because of COVID in 20, and I came home from Arizona. You couldn't go live in anybody else's house. So we put in the plumbing. We'd gone to go and get the plumbing many times, permit, and they never gave it to us. Why? Who knows? They had this one little dangle thing, I think, that people wanted to hang on to. I don't know why. Anyways, so that is why the plumbing went in. And yes, I did stay up there for a couple of weeks till they came and said, okay, now you have to disconnect the plumbing. We did disconnect the plumbing and the sewer. That wasn't good enough. We had to rip it out of the walls. Now, that is absolutely ridiculous. When it can't even be used, it's disconnected, and you're going to rip it out of the walls? Now, if I get approved, which I'm approved for a suite, what good is that when you want to approve the variances? I don't understand. I don't understand how people can sit here and say no. And last meeting, Terry, you asked to have it.
It's Counselor Porter. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Counselor Porter. Right about now. Anyway, Counselor Porter, you asked to have it tabled to September. And I thought when I walked out the building that you guys had agreed. And I was excited because I was going to get it till September. I misunderstood. You said nay to tabling to September. Had it been in September, the other person who got approved would have been here at the same time for us to have that conversation. I don't get this council deciding no. And I don't, and Mr. and Mrs. Judson, I'm sorry, but I really don't affect you. I don't see,
Okay,
we're
let's-
not lucky.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. McCabe? Counselor Porter?
Just a comment. I think the reason why we were tabling it or attempting to table it, at least my idea was to make sure to so the other parties could make the next meeting
I thought also.
and ask questions to the people who could answer the questions.
I
That's why.
also thought at the time that part of the reason you were asking for it is because you weren't familiar with everything that had happened over the time, and I don't think a number of the councils had knowledge of what all the things that we have gone through.
Well, all the council meetings are all on YouTube now.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll ask if anyone else is here to speak in favor of the application. Again, anyone here to speak in favor of the application? I'll ask if anyone is here to speak against the application. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Letters in favor first.
We have one letter from Percy J. Phillips. Says refile PC 20-25, Joanne McCabe. We live directly across the street from 102 First Street Southwest, Portage la Prairie, and have no objection to the granting of the application for variance contained in PC 20-25. What I would suggest as a proviso on granting the variance is the construction of a privacy fence or vision obstruction device between 102 First Street Southwest and the property directly south of it, to allow the adjacent property to the south to retain the privacy of their yard. Thank you for your consideration of our opinion on the application for variance on PC 20-25 file from Percy J. Phillips.
Thank you. I'll ask if anyone is here to speak against the application. Again, anyone here to speak against the application? And we do have some letters of objection to be read out.
The first letter is from Lori Carlson Judson and Dave Judson. Reapplication for variance PC 20-25. Dear Mayor and Council, the previous request for the same variance applications for 102 First Street Southwest was addressed by Council 8 months ago in August 2024. We were of the understanding that applications can be made once a year. A year has not passed since August 2024. This is the 5th time that the McCabes have submitted this request for their garage storage structure. While it is Joanne McCabe who is making this request, the structure is on the McCabe property at 102 First Street Southwest. Council has denied all previous applications. The most recent application saw that the request for conditional use was approved, but that the variances were denied as the property in question has been built to encroach over the neighbors' properties. Once again, the request is being made by the McCabes without their having made any changes to the structure that would meet compliance with the building bylaws. The McCabes continue to pressure others to solve this problem for them, suggesting that if neighbors just say yes, then they are all set to use the space as a residence for Joanne. It is not the neighbors who hold the legal authority or responsibility on this, though we will continue to voice our disagreement with this illegal activity. And it has been the case in all their applications the McCabes offer no solution themselves. They have been asked on record in August of 2024 by council if they intended to modify the structure in the ways needed for compliance with the codes, and they responded no. Now here we are again. The garage of storage is a fully conceptualized and constructed residence with all the infrastructure and amenities to support habitation. Their documented encroachment on a neighbor's property means nothing to them. Somehow it is the neighbors that again are being pressed to create a solution for them. We remain opposed to this request and continue to see the construction of this structure and the occupancy of it as disregard for city and provincial laws and bylaws that are meant to protect communities and neighborhoods from such abuses. It is most troubling to see that since Council's 4th and latest denial and their directive that the structure was not sanctioned for occupancy, that someone occupies it. We stand by our position that this building has been illegal since the start, and to complicate matters more, it encroaches on other properties. The McCabe solution seems to be to wait it out and see if the neighbors tire of standing up for themselves and give in. To approve this request would be to legitimize the structure and turn a blind eye to their purposeful skirting of the law. To approve it would also beg the question, can the city gift one homeowner's land to another to legalize the encroachment? The tensions they have created in the neighborhood continues as the situation goes unresolved. We are challenged with answering to the same requests year after year unless the city addresses the issue at the foundation of its conception. Sincerely, Lori Carlson Judson and Dave Judson. The second letter is from Ken Neufeld and Diana Messington Neufeld. Dear council members, we are opposed to the application for variance file PC 20-25. There have been no changes to the current structure to make it comply with the required regulations. The existing structure should follow the city's rules. The same request has been brought forth numerous times, and we hope council continues to deny the application request. Respectfully submitted, Ken Neufeld and Diana Messington Neufeld. The third letter is from Alina and Leonard Rossnagel. Letter of objection to council re PC 20-25. I usually make an in-person presentation objecting to the variation before council today. This year, I am unwilling to go through the preparation and stress this causes, so this letter will have to be adequate. I trust that council will make a wise decision. We have seen these proposed variations many times before. In summary, the property is much larger than the conditional use for a secondary suite, over 20%. The property is much too close to neighboring properties, so close that the corner actually is over our property. At the last set of hearings, Mayor Knox and several councillors suggested that neighbors need to talk about common issues to come to a solution. To be fair, Justin McCabe did talk to me recently to inform me that there would be another variation request. This is the first civil conversation we have had in several years. He did apologize for some past bad behavior, but not the original deceptive construction. I would not call this ongoing dialogue. Nothing has changed in the situation since council denied this variation in the past. Last year, Councillor Meyer actually proposed some changes, but none of these are reflected in the proposed variation. We would request that council once again deny this variation. Sincerely, Elena Rossnagel and Leonard Rossnagel.
Thank you. Does council have any questions of the applicants or anyone before we close the public hearing? Because this will be Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through Your Worship to the applicants. As Mr. and Mrs. Judson's letter indicates, is the suite currently occupied at the moment?
You're going to need to come to the mic. Somebody needs to come to the mic. Thank you.
Sorry about that. No, it is not occupied as we speak.
Okay, and the services, water, sewer, remain disconnected at this time?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're torn right out of the walls.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, Mr. McCabe, can you excuse my, maybe I don't understand, but what do you mean shooting yourself in the foot? I don't understand what that means.
No, that wasn't my comment. That was actually Mr. Rossnagel's
But
comment.
I don't know what that
I
means.
wasn't quite sure what it meant exactly either, but I think the point is that there was really no point in taking that down because it doesn't resolve anything for him, and it actually makes it a worse scenario. So we can resolve it, and he knows that, and I've made that as a resolution. So Joe, you've asked about what do we do, what was our presentation? That was what I had done, right? I went and that was the issue, was the 5 inches of trough. I can either narrow it down for that piece and make it into a pie. I'm good with metal. I can bend it and do whatever to make that a thing. And he said no. So I'm okay with doing it if he wants me to, and I'm okay with leaving it if he wants it left. So he said to leave it, and that was 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Like when you're talking to these neighbors and trying to work this through, like I would say from Mr. Rossnagel's conversation that you have had some conversations, so that's good. Did you ever get to the point of saying, what can we do so that you would write a letter in favor of this?
That was my approach to Ken, first off, because I felt I had a better, the neighbor to the south of me, because I felt I had a better communication with him. So yeah, I went to Ken and I spoke to him and I said, like we're in this position. We put the building where we were told we could put the building. It is there. It's not going to move. The trough can come off if you want. I said, like, I don't know what exactly council wants from us as neighbors, but I believe it was Councillor Massey that had mentioned, it'd be nice that we don't want things in Portage to be having this oil and water negative situation. So I watched the YouTube video and I went straight away over to my neighbors 3 days later and I spoke to Ken. And I said, you know, I don't know, Ken, if like this is what they're looking for from us. And so we do have communication. I don't know that if I was a good neighbor or a bad neighbor to you, you would invite me on your fishing trip anyways. He laughed and he said, no, you're probably right. So when I spoke to him then just last week, I said, so hey Ken, so you think you're gonna invite me on that fishing trip yet? So what are you talking about? I said, well, we went back and we reapplied again. And I said, I just want to talk to you about some of the things that have come up and some of the issues that we've had in the past. And as far as like the R2 application is concerned, because I am going to continue to refer back to that, Ryan, because that was what we gave after we got a height variance. We were allowed to go to the R2, and that's why we did it that way. So we have to drill down on that and let you know that. And when I did that, I was able to have that as a 0.5 side yard. But I'm actually 1.05 on that side yard. So I relieved it from that side because he actually uses that space. On the other space to the Rossnagel side, which he's not concerned about the trough being there or that airspace because he can't put anything there or utilize that space because it is a hydro right-of-way. So it has to be left open at all times.
Can I give you a, I'm just going to put if I was in your situation, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to work this out with my neighbors, and I knew that there was this much discontent because there is discontent here from what I wasn't in those conversations with your neighbors, but you and I know well some of them were not good. Is I would keep having these conversations to form a solution. Then I would say, are we okay here? Should I apply for this variation again? Right? Because it's like you need to have that support from them because just all of a sudden, you know, when these feelings or whatever are still out there and you're saying, oh, by the way, we applied for this variation again, you need to just sort of switch things up, in my opinion, a little bit to get that before you go and just say we've done this again, because I think we can see quite clearly that the feelings are all still there.
So your recommendation is that prior to me making application, I should go talk to my neighbors.
And see what you can do and come up with the solution that we talked
I don't know that
about.
if I'm ever going to do what you guys want me to do, because every time I do what you ask me to do, you hang another carrot in front of me.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that when I go and apply for a height variance and I get approved, and then you give me an R2 application, and then I'm declined because Mr. Rossnagel says that that's not allowed, yet Eric Lee on the island goes and applies for a application for this, and he is able to get it smooth sailing.
We're not gonna talk about
all of you as
another.
council, and all of you as council got an email that states that Eric Lee's
We're
place
not.
does not have
No,
the proper
sorry.
permits, and you all just still went and approved it. I know
Mr.
you're going to
McCabe.
decline me tonight because you've already stated that.
Mr. McCabe, we're talking about your variation.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I'm telling you what's gone on here, and I don't like it.
Okay, thank you.
It's really disheartening.
Any other questions for anyone before we? Oh, Lori, go ahead. Thank you. Yep. Just state your name into the mic, please.
Lori Carlson Judson. I want to stress that it isn't up to, it isn't up to neighbors making nice or coming together and agreeing a go-ahead moment. It's the council, the city's job to ensure that the rules are followed. It's not ours to say, gee, it's okay with us. Go back to council when nothing has changed. We've never seen that that part of it that's missing is that the McCabe's will offer something to that shows that they are willing to make that change. The eaves trough, 4 inches, I would have to know what the really what a survey said about that. But honestly, I do not feel right that the city could, if okaying that without any changes, is gifting one neighbor's property to another. to make this okay. So that's my thought, but it's not up to us to just keep coming together and having that chat, because nothing is changing except the date of the chat. So thank you.
Thank you. Everybody good? Okay. Do we want to, are we good with hearing response? Yep, sure. Come on up.
So,
If you can just raise that mic a little bit there, mister.
oops, better? So I'll start with Judson's. No disrespect, by the way, Laurie and David. I have come to David and tried to speak with him on a couple of occasions since this has happened, and it's just unfortunate that we're here today. So I don't want you to take this as disrespect, but I think there's some misinformation and some dialogue that's been mentioned in your letter that I want to address. So one of the comments in here, it says, once again, once again, the request is being made by McCabe's without their having made any changes to the structure that would meet compliance with the building bylaws. I comply with all building bylaws, so I don't want that ever written back in. If you have a problem or you think that they're not right, then I would like you to go to the planning district to be sure that what you're writing in here is accurate. The McCabe's continue to pressure others to solve this problem for them, suggesting that if all neighbors just say yes, then they are all set to use the space and residence for Joanne. It's not the neighbors who hold the authority or responsibility on this. Though we will continue to voice our disagreement with this illegal activity. So I'm not quite sure what is the illegal activity, but we would like to be clarified on what is illegal, that the activity that we're presenting today or have in the past is actual illegal. And it has been the case in all their applications. McCabe's offer no resolutions themselves. Well, as I've reiterated tonight, I've gone to my neighbors multiple times, as well as these neighbors here, and tried to speak to them about a resolution. The resolution that was provided was what was suggested by council, and nothing was accepted, except for the case to say that do nothing, it's fine. So we remain opposed to this request to continue construction of the structure. Sorry, we remain opposed to this request and continue to see construction of the structure and the occupancy is disregarded the city bylaws. Well, I can't go do what I did if I didn't have the proper applications. Nobody from council or planning district has ever written me a letter to tell me that I need to tear this building down because of its location or because of its size. None of that has happened. We stand by our position that the building has been illegally built since the start.
Do you have like specific things? Because you're just rereading the letter at this point.
So the last comment here that they state is we are challenged with answering the same request year after year unless the city addresses the issue at the foundation of its conception. The foundation of its conception is the application process. And the application process was me to go in and get an application for the building to make sure I could get the height. Once I had that, I went for an R2.
And today we're at a variation request. So
yes, and the
what
variation request is because of the new application created by council.
Okay.
It isn't something, it would be like me purchasing.
And the next letter?
Yeah, so the next letter is, the existing structure should follow the city rules, okay? So I do not follow the rules, it says. If the mayor, council, or planning district could tell us what rules he is referring to or what wasn't followed, that may help us understand. How did we get to this place? We got to this place because of the process. Shortly after the approval denial, I had a chat with Ken. He's very upset with the planning district, not myself, my wife, or my mother. We spoke in depth about why
Okay, we're not going to do hearsay of a conversation with Mr. He's not here to verify that, so that's a hearsay conversation between you and him.
I'll step down.
Any other questions or comment? Mr. Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. McCabe, question for you. You weren't at the August hearing. It was your mom that came, Miss McCabe. But I'm trying to understand. This is my first term on council, okay? So I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I really do want to hear what you got to say, and I've heard it.
I hope so.
But why? So you say you have this, as the mayor indicated, this conversation and here you are arguing with the other people sitting right there. Like, we asked two things at that hearing. One, to talk to your neighbors about a plan. And I take full responsibility as a councillor. I understand what Ms. Carlson Judson says. We will take responsibility. But we're just saying, talk to one another, involve them. You didn't involve them from the beginning. So now we have a problem. Number two, we said, is there a plan that could work out with planning, with the neighbors? Because this has gone on long enough. I agree. So both of those things you've indicated that you're not going to meet some of the requirements. You can't meet them, you're saying to us. But it's kind of ironic that we're discussing and you're arguing with your neighbor who's sitting 5 feet from you. Why do you have to come here and do that when you could have done it prior to coming to the hearing and talk to them about it? It's courtesy. It's the way we do things in Portage la Prairie. We're neighbors. We try to respect one another. And it's just, what I've seen is there was a lot of miscommunication or no communication. So that's what I'm trying to get in my head to understand this issue. And maybe the genie's out of the bottle and we can't do anything about it now. But that's what's really concerning me. And I just, I don't want to get into a discussion of hearsay and conversations and
Fair.
That was the two things we asked from the last council.
Yeah.
Neither one has been fulfilled.
Well, I did both, actually. I went to my neighbors. I went to my neighbors right after that council meeting, and I went to them again just recently within the last 2 weeks. So I have done that, and I have tried to bridge that gap. So that was your first thing. And the second thing is that I did offer a resolution.
Okay. Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. McCabe, you offered a resolution in that, and help me here, to the encroachment piece, correct?
Sorry?
For the encroachment piece, correct? To remove that, towards the angled piece, the tight part of the encroachment of it. And I'm getting back to that. For my understanding, there's still a variance in place because there would be, right? Correct? Even with that 4 inches mitigated on the encroachment, we still have a variance that we need to go
If
through.
it wasn't encroached, the building the way it stands, there is no variance required. On the application today to approve this suite, yes.
Right. So my understanding when we left that last council meeting was that, in fact, you're going to go speak to your neighbors, and you know what? This is great. You've started that process and that piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think the part that is missing for me to understand is that there's not a real resolution or a mitigation or an understanding of what it would be with those folks to say, what would I need to do here? In terms of that variance or that the encroachment you've but we still have a variance that would need to be brought forth. And people tend to want to follow that piece because their land doesn't a plain run straight up and down. But the variance piece too, in terms of those clearances, I think that, have you ever asked that question of your folks, your neighbors, like, what would I need to do here?
That's exactly the way I went.
Okay.
And then, to add to that, 96% of the properties in Portage la Prairie have a variance approved.
I get that, but not to maybe this extreme where we're going to be still right on that property line with that 4 inches removed, then the encroachment is gone. But that piece to mitigate, or is there a reasonable piece that, to bring that back, a proposal? Did you discuss anything with that, please?
Absolutely did. That's
okay.
why I went to my neighbors twice to do this.
Okay. And,
So
and there was no discussion with possibly planning and what it is that we could bring to us to make a decision that we've seen in the past in terms of distances?
Yeah, that's what I talked to Grant, as I mentioned. I brought him over to the house. We looked at that. He showed it. I went to the neighbors. I mentioned the resolution based on what we spoke of, and the neighbor was fine with the trough being there. So that was the end of the resolution.
The neighbor's fine with the trough still staying?
Yeah, and on that side, we've got a hydro variance. So the variance is from that wall to that wall, then
for
my
an easement,
building,
I understand that, yeah.
then my building, and so...
Okay, you got to stay at the mic. Yeah.
So my point is that I don't see any proposal that's coming back, whether it be, I mean, it's not necessarily a negotiation, but it is an understanding with a proposal in terms of that distances and, what would make that backside of your place acceptable to your neighbors. So that's my comment.
Yep.
Those are my questions, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, fair.
Thank
Could
you.
I speak to it?
Sure.
So
He said
there's we have gone about the variance, and we've mended some fences with our neighbors. I don't know. I guess there's really not much more to say, Farron. I don't know what to
Councillor
tell you.
Nichols.
Thank you, Worship. You're on the right track.
I'm sorry.
No, I think that for my position as a counselor, I see things that I just need to see something brought forward in terms of that variance that maybe I could look at.
We've tried to do this with the neighbor, and I've reiterated, I don't know what more I can say.
I think sorry, Your
Councillor
Worship.
Nichols.
I think that things are, and Joanne, I think that, this has gone on a long time, and I think that, I'm hoping you're under the right track here, and maybe it just isn't going to happen now, but there's time. I get that it might not feel that way, but for me, I think that, you making those steps forward after the meeting and the parts to speak with your neighbors, that piece of it. Now, please bring us something that, along with planning, that I would like to look at, please.
Thank you.
What I'm hearing is not only from yourself, Cheryl, that there's been a decision already made, because if you listen back to what we've said here, is
There's-
that come back with this.
Mr. McCabe,
Yeah.
we have not had a vote, so there's
Okay.
been no decision
I
made.
know, I'm just hearing stuff that is leading
Okay,
towards
thank
that,
you.
and I'm sorry.
Thank you. Nothing else? Okay. I'll ask for a motion to close public hearing. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for variation PC 20-25 McCabe at 102 First Street Southwest now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, of course, in front of you, you will see now the report to council. And I'm going to highlight some of the parts that we're already aware of. So to the Planning and Economic Development Committee, which is a request for variation for the applicant owner Joanne McCabe, Justin and Andrea McCabe at 102 First Street Southwest. And the request for the variance is to vary the following: the secondary suite maximum size of 75 meters. They want to increase it to 90.67 square meters. Secondary suites rear yard requirements of 1.5 meters reduced to 0.55 meters. And secondary suite south side yard requirement of 1.5 meters reduced to 1.03. As usual, the alternatives that council has is to approve the variation application or to deny the variation application. The background you're already aware of. Rationale is the owners would like to create a secondary suite for the mother to live in. The building is in currently an R1 or residential single family zone. And as council is aware, owners have occupied for a similar variance request in September of 2019, December 2020, and March 2022, but withdrew them as the conditional use had been denied. In August of 2024, the conditional use was approved and the variation PC 4224 was denied. The building is again in an R1 residential family zone. Application has been circulated to various city departments. Some of the comments is in regards to the reduced setbacks and of course the effect that they have on the neighboring properties. Since then, the owner has mitigated and taken disconnected plumbing, drain, and water lines, had fire rated shutters on the east and south windows installed, and no one has been living in the space. If the application is approved, the applicant will be required to provide plans and information showing what second floor used to be and how it is constructed, or what the second floor use is to be and how it is constructed. A building and plumbing permit will be required as well. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and the objection letters have been noted. It's the administrative recommendation, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Joanne McCabe to vary the following. Secondary suite maximum size of 75 square meters increased to 90.67. Secondary suite rear yard requirements of 1.5 meters reduced to 0.55. And secondary suite south side yard requirement of 1.5 meters reduced to 1.03 at the property known as 102 First Street Southwest, which is legally described as Lot 3, Block 1, Plan 1998 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Council. I just wanted to kind of react first to this. I know we've had a lot of discussion. We've already spent a lot of time, but I really feel that it's important that we understand a couple of things. First of all, just from my own chair, I just want everybody around the table to understand that I am also a property owner that lives within that 100-meter radius and was received the same letter that every other property owner had. Any comments, decisions I make tonight are solely as a regard for the community in my chair and has nothing to do from a personal nature. Secondly, this is not about Joanne McCabe and should not come into conversation. This is strictly a variance request. I want to address real quick some of the inaccuracies or unfactual statements just in a couple of the letters, just so Councillor has the facts. One, it talked about that this had come to Council 5 times. That is actually not true. The conditional use came to Council, and because the conditional use was denied originally back in 19, 20, and 22, the fact remains that the variance just didn't go ahead. So Council has never really addressed the variance before because it's always been withdrawn. Conditional use was approved in August of 2024, which gave us Council the first opportunity and chance to really look at it from a specific variance. When Council passed the secondary suite bylaw, the intent is to create downtown diversity, density, to be able to have areas and so on. And I really think that the merit of the secondary suite bylaw stands on its own. With that, though, comes certain things, and that's why we're here today. The variance, of course, is requiring a large number of changes, and unfortunately, it's after the fact. We've approved some of those before. We've also approved many, many variances in many situations. So it comes down to a variety of different things. And I'm going to close quickly by saying when I make a decision on this, I look at it 2 ways. First way I look at it is, would I approve this if there had been no objection? Second thing I'm going to look at is, what do the objections actually say? How does it affect their property values? How does it affect their quality of life? And how does it affect where they live? With that said, and there may be further discussion as we go through this, I can still not support this variance request, but I want to be clear for the various following reasons. One is, as Councillor Nichols talked about, the encroachment into the other citizens' property. That's not a variance request. That just should not have happened. How it happened, I don't know, and I could not support it unless that was obviously in the motion. I can probably live with the 0.55 meters, and it leads me to one question, Madam Mayor, if I could, and unfortunately our planning district representative is not here, but if this had just been a garage, which it is right now, my understanding, nobody's living in it, plumbing is disconnected, it can be built at 0.55 meters from a property line. Am I right in that?
Go ahead, Ms. Dakota.
Through your worship to Councillor Meyer, yes, that is my understanding.
Thank you, City Manager Dakota. Did I get that right? Just kidding. So typically, as the use it is right now, it can be used, right? So what we're really looking for is, so I can really live with the 0.55 meters of this variance. I can probably also live with the 1.5 reduction, or sorry, the reduction to 1.03 from 1.05. It's not a large area of distance, that we've approved those things before. What I'm also struggling with, though, is I'm having trouble with the size of the suite. You just can't build a suite to any measurements that you want and then come after the fact and expect council to approve it, which I think maybe happened in this situation. That said, I am prepared to revisit this at some point in time, but those would be my recommendations with further conversation that we might have going forward here tonight. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Espy, did I see your hand? Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a few comments. This is something quite different because this hasn't just been a variance in the past in the times I've been involved, although I have been on the planning district and on council since this all started. I have a bit of an issue with the whole make peace with your neighbors thing, and maybe they'll say yes, because this becomes them giving permission to council to vote for something that is a variance, which means if a variance is required, it's not permitted as it sits right now. And anything other than a garage with a storage space above, which is what was constructed and approved originally. I will struggle with the fact that we're just waiting for those yeses. And the comments from one of the gallery and from one of the letters is that we would be essentially gifting someone else's property to the McCabe's. In essence, that would be correct. We would be granting an encroachment and removing an eaves trough on property, something that's encroaching on my property. I would probably have an issue with that as well, because that would mean all of their drainage water would be coming directly onto my property. The only way that I see this being resolved is to get rid of the need for a variance at all, and there's only one way to do that that would make everyone happy, and that's to move the building. And I understand that's cost prohibitive, but I think that is the only reasonable solution that no parties can object to.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. I sort of understand where Councillor Espy's coming from. I certainly, if I spoke about talking to the neighbors, it wasn't to say an automatic yes from my perspective. But I worked with the Planning Act in my previous life. I helped draft it. And one of the real principles in there is to talk to neighbors and to try to, before things get out of hand. And this has not happened in this case. It's unfortunate. On the variances, and I respect Councillor Myers. He's chair of planning here on our city. He has very wise comments as well. But I just, as a councillor elected in October of 2022, I can't support this because there were two things that were asked for in August of 2024. Talk to the neighbors because this thing had gotten out of control. And secondly, Councillor Nichols said, come back with something that we can look at, let the planning district can look at. There's nothing here. It's sort of just go ahead and approve it. And I think it's really important that we send a message that in Portage la Prairie, we respect other people's opinions on planning. Planning is a very delicate thing. We're all citizens of Portage la Prairie. We choose to live here, but there's certain rules and regulations that make us a great city, and that's the getting along with our neighbors, trying to figure things out. And so I can't support it at this time. I respect the McCabe's for coming back. They want to get this approved, but maybe if you work at this a little better, a little different, and try to come up with something, and maybe there isn't a solution. I don't know. But I can't support this because nothing has changed from August. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Porter?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I too, at this point, I see that nothing's changed. And from my perspective, unless there is a solution that included the planning district, as well as your opposing neighbors, you give me no alternative but to not support this application.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? That's denied. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee has no report at this point in the meeting.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development has nothing to report.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Worship. The Community Services Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report at this portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Transportation has nothing to report.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Safety Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. We have one item of deferred business to award the tender for the disposal of lime sludge and waste residuals. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank
This
you,
has been
Worship.
tabled from the April 28th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Council, what we have in front of us is a report to us, and yes, this was tabled. So the issue is to award tender of number 25 OPS 011 for the disposal of lime, sludge, and waste residuals for the City of Portage la Prairie Water Treatment Plant. Administrative recommendation to award the tender of the disposal of lime, sludge, and waste residuals to the company within the highest points as per the city's procurement policy. Give you some background on this. The City of Portage la Prairie has 2 lime waste residual storage drying ponds located near the water treatment plant. The lime sludge and the other waste residuals are pumped into one pond until full. The pond is then taken offline to dry for 1 year while the other pond is filling. Due to the increased water production, this work has become more frequent, requiring each pond to be emptied every 3 years instead of 5 between cleanings. Once the material in the pond is dried for 1 year, it needs to be disposed of at the landfill, as the city is no longer able to land apply to farmland. The work involves the excavating, loading, transportation, and final disposal of lime softening residuals and other residuals from the water treatment plant solid settling pond. The dry residual waste material is likely greater than 90% calcium carbonate with a small fraction of organic matter and very small quantity of aluminum coagulant compounds. This work is highly regulated, with the city required to obtain approval from the Office of the Drinking Water as well from the local Manitoba Environment and Climate Change Officer. As described in the tender, the contractor is required to provide all equipment and personnel while ensuring the disposal of the lime sludge and waste residuals conforms to provincial or federal regulations. The work must be completed by October 10th, 2025. Within the scope of work, the task that is most crucial involves the precise excavation of the lime sludge ponds. The lime ponds have a clay bottom that contains the lime sludge to prevent groundwater contamination. It is critical that the contractor only removes enough lime residuals to expose the top of the concrete pads located in the ponds, with a variance of plus or minus 200 millimeters, and does not excavate or otherwise damage the clay liner. Careful operation around the concrete pads and sludge guns is necessary as not to damage the piping infrastructure. Critical pieces. Supplement tasks include load trucks with lime sludge and transport to Portage Regional Landfill in a manner to not interfere with the operation of the second lime pond. Maintain haul, road, and dust control. And finally, ensure the project is completed by October 10th, 2025, as I've mentioned. And a report is prepared for the submission to Manitoba Environment and Climate Change. Once the project is completed, the city will survey the empty pond. If the contractor removed any areas more than 200 millimeters below the top of the concrete pads, they must supply and repack the area with suitable clay liner material. This is a new requirement added for this tender. The work requires skilled machine operators to complete the lime sludge removal properly. Previous contractors have damaged the concrete pads and sludge guns, but more critically removed too much of the sludge to the point that a fair amount of the clay liner was removed. In one such case, a company removed an estimated 4,311 tons of clay liner, which cost the city an extra $120,708 to haul away this material. Due to delays in the completion of the work, it was not possible to evaluate the damage, and this remains an open deficiency. Should the clay liner material removed that year need to be replaced, it is estimated to cost an additional $256,660. The city has also experienced contractors not meeting deadline for completion. When this occurs, the city is unable to start using the empty pond. The pumps that are pushing sludge into the active full pond need to work harder. This has caused additional staff labor, vacuum truck costs, as well as unnecessary wear and equipment. Time delays also pose a freezing potential. The wet sludge keeps the distribution pipes from freezing. If the switchover to the empty pond occurs too late in the fall, the new pond will not fill with liquid fast enough to prevent the pipes from freezing solid. This has required expensive jetting costs and additional wearing of pumps. 3 submersible pumps have required repairs or replacement due to the late contract completion. These pumps cost an average of $10,000 to $15,000 to repair and $25,000 to replace. The emphasis, the importance of completing this work on time, liquidated damages for late project completion have been added to this year's tender at a cost of $5,000 per day for every day the work is delayed after October 10th, 2025. The tender process for the disposal of the lime and other waste residuals was posted on Merck's website and electronically on the city's website. The tender closed at 2 p.m. on Wednesday, April 23rd of 2025. 14 copies of the tender were sent out and 5 submissions were received. The tender has followed the procurement tender process, which is designated to provide a quality result while meeting applicable Canadian trade agreements. The rated criteria are set at 50 points for qualifications, experience, and the ability of the bidder to perform the services. 10 points for sustainability factors, 10 points for a past relationship with the city, and 30 points for pricing, for 100 total points. The qualifications and experience criteria look at several parameters, such as whether they have prior, recent experience with clearing sludge ponds or other similarly lined basins, hauling of excavated materials, experience of any subcontractors declared, adequate equipment at their disposal, and the age of the equipment, all adding up to the ability of the contractor to do quality work. For a bidder to demonstrate qualifications and experience, forms D, E, and G are to be completed. Copies of these are attached for our reference here. The sustainability factors account for the contractor's sustainable purchasing practices, environmental conservation efforts, and the support it and/or its employees give to the local community and economy. Form C attached has 8 questions that are asked, which each worth up to 4 points. Example answers are also provided in the tender so bidders have a reference point of what a full point answer would be. The points for each question are added up. The total is divided by 32 and then multiplied by 10 to determine the score out of 10 eligible points. Regarding the contractor's past relationships with the city, if a company has not dealt with the city previously, a neutral score of 5 out of 10 is given. If a contractor has completed good work with the city, then a higher mark will be given. If previous work was done with the city that was unsatisfactory in either quality or execution, had legal issues or unresolved project deficiencies, a lower mark may be given. The final 30 points of the score are given for pricing relative to the other bids. The low bidder is awarded 30 points, and a calculation of the cost per point is determined. All other bids are automatically calculated, a point value relative to the low bid, or bid cost, low bid cost times 30. For such as this, that it is highly dependent on the contractor's ability to perform the job correctly and efficiently. The maximum points for price is adjusted to have less of an impact and not meant to be a price-based award. Points awarded from all 4 categories are totalized, and the company with the highest score is recommended for award. Section 20.03 of the tender states that the scores for each of the tender submission will be calculated in accordance with the weightings indicated next to the rated criteria. The evaluation committee or its authorized representatives, or plural if need be, will submit a tender award recommendation to the City Council for approval and authorization for the bidder with the top ranked tender submission. The submitted tenders were evaluated and the points were awarded as follows. Assiniboine Injections Limited, price per tone $29.81. Total points were 94.34, and their price was $98,730 net of GST. Messington Construction, price per tone is $27.20. Total points allocated were 92.10, and a total bid price of $97,600. KBL Projects Limited, price per tone was $30.79. Total points allocated were 80.89, and their total bid price net GST was $1,016,070. Eddie's Gravel Supply Limited, price per tone was $27.70. Total points awarded were 77.81, and their bid price was $914,100. $914,100. EF Moon Construction, their price per tone submitted was $28 per tone. Total points for EF Moon were 75.11, and their total bid price was $924,000. The total bid prices are based on conservative estimate of 33,000 tones for comparison purposes. The contract makes no assurances about the total amount of lime residuals to be removed, and the contractor is paid per dry tone, not a lump sum based on the actual volume of lime residuals disposed at the landfill. The 2025 budget includes $1,200,000, which is allocated from the utility reserve. Assiniboine Injection has completed this same work for the city in previous years and did an excellent job. They have also completed other lime hauling and or spreading operations for other municipalities in Manitoba and are very familiar with the work required. So the alternatives here is to award the tender for the disposal of lime sludge and waste residuals to Assiniboine Injections Limited as per the administrative recommendation, or two, any other direction the council may approve. So council, it's administration's recommendation that the council of the city of Portage la Prairie award the contract for the disposal of lime sludge and waste residuals as specified in tender 25 OPS 011 to Assiniboine Injections Limited for the tendered price of $29.81 per ton to a maximum of $983,730 net of GST. And I so move, Your Honor.
Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Porter. Did you just call me Your Honor?
I
That
was
made me
very, very close to it. I did start partway through.
We got lots of
I
names
apologize.
today. Thank you. Councillor Espy.
I'm just making sure that it was the same mover and seconder, seeing how this was a tabled motion from last time.
Oh, same
We're-
mover and, does it have to be the same mover and seconder?
Well, it's already on the table, so it technically doesn't have to be moved a second time.
Oh, just voting, you're correct, so.
Okay. That being said, I'll start it off if you're okay
Sure,
with that,
go ahead,
Your
Councillor
Worship.
Espy. Yep.
If you recall, last time I asked for a bunch more information. I haven't been able to get any of that because of different legal reasons, but there have been clues. And when I say clues, there are things like saying Assiniboine Injections has completed the same work for the city in previous years, did an excellent job. They also completed other lime hauling, and it goes on. That would speak to ability to do the job relationship with the city, which I feel where possibly Messington Construction may have fallen short. And then I'm going to go back to an excerpt from the original tender that says the contractor or his representative shall use due care that no person or property is injured or damaged and that no rights are infringed in the performance of the work, and the contractor shall be solely responsible for all damages by whomever claimable in the respect of a death of a person and in respect of any injury to a person or damage to land, building, structure, fences, trees, crops, roads, or property of whatever description of any infringement of any right. And it goes on, but basically there is a clause in there that would cover if something were to go awry in the execution of this tender. based on the fact that I haven't really received any information that would justify an $85,000 difference in bid, and that the tender seems to cover us if something happens to the clay liner, etc. I'm going to propose an amendment to the resolution. And yes, it changes the spirit of the resolution, but
Just Councillor Espy. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can't change the intent of a resolution.
I
So
have researched this, and I
Yeah.
believe you can.
not in a, like you, it has to be voted down and then a new motion made.
Okay, that is contrary to the information that I have researched.
Okay.
But if that is what council requires, then I will simply state that I would encourage council to defeat this motion, and then we put forward a different one.
Does anybody have anything further? Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to ask regarding the city's procurement policy when it comes to some of the wording in there. It states that up to 10% of the points handed out can be given for sustainability factors, which is reflected in this particular tender package. 10% is put on sustainability. However, the wording is a little bit different in the sense that it goes to the lowest bidder with the option of that 10% coming into play for sustainability. So in this case, I just want to make sure that we are protecting ourselves and that the procurement policy was followed based on that wording. The only reason I say that is because the procurement of this particular tender, 50 weighting points are for qualification and experience, 10% sustainability, 10% past relationships, and 30% price. So the 30% price does go against the procurement policy, and I just want to make sure that we are not open to any liability for that.
Dakota?
Through your worship to Councillor Doyle, the wording on the procurement policy does say that typically the lowest bid received would be awarded, but it does go on to state that many other factors can be considered by the evaluation committee, including but not limited to past experience, qualifications, personnel, technical understanding, work approach or business track record, and the ability to get the work done. So not only are those items listed in the procurement policy, they are very carefully outlined for anyone who is submitting a bid. And so they are aware upfront of what evaluation criteria will be reviewed and what weight each one of those criteria is given.
Thank you.
Can I just ask I just want to follow up on something that Councillor Espy said. So when we say in our tender, right, about if that there's mistakes made, I'm just going to use non-legal thing, mistakes made or whatever, that we could go to the person who had the contract and get that. But it's not as simple as, I'm just assuming it's not as simple as saying, you screwed up, please give us this money. It would be a legal process, would it not? Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear in my head. Okay. Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think maybe I mentioned this at last council meeting before this went to deferral. I believe the procurement policy that council passed in 2017, at that point in time was very clear, and I know that we revisited it a number of times. I still have to have trust that that process is correct today. If council at some point in time disagrees, we can always revisit it. That said, I also have to trust that our administration follows the process of procurement the way that the policy is laid out. If I don't do that, then I've got maybe some bigger issues. The reason I say that is because I got to trust in this situation here, although this is not the lowest bid, and I get that, I trust that there's a process that, and even though it's as transparent as can be, and I understand the legalities of why we can't visit some of the other stuff, but I gotta trust that the process works. And if somebody wants to challenge that process, they have every right to do that. With that said, I am going to support this motion. Even though we're supposed to be stewards of our dollars, I get that. We're supposed to be fiscally responsible. And in this case here, I mean, I don't see a big enough difference in the bid price to justify not approving the administration's recommendation. So I will be supporting the motion, but again, I'm only one person around the table. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to be supporting this motion. I think that the infrastructure, and it's my portfolio, and I look at past a bit. I look at going forward, and I look at the tender prices here, and really, the dollar pieces are all very, very reasonable in terms of $1 million contract. So that tells me that the job scope and piece is getting out properly and clearly to the individuals bidding, and at the same time, I have to support administration because it's critical that this work be done in a way that is experienced and qualified. And that infrastructure and that clay base and what's going on out there, I do have a little bit of an understanding of it, and I know that it's critical. It's got to be monitored in terms of the excavation, and I think that this is evident in the work that's been done for screening here and the points that are in place, and therefore I will be supporting this motion going forward and this resolution. And for the factual reasons that we've had good results and the dollars are there, to mitigate any concerns of inexperience and I'm careful when I say that because there could be contractors that have bid here that have the experience, but this is where I'm at, and I think that this is, the point system is working well in this piece, and I'll support this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify from last meeting, we cannot see the results of the tender process, correct?
Correct, but if you want to elaborate.
Through
Mr.
your
Cota.
worship to Councillor Doyle, yes, that is correct. The individual results from the members of the evaluation committee must be held in confidence. Releasing them to a wider audience would open the city to claims of unfairness, lack of transparency, and bias in our process.
Thank you. And just a follow-up question. What if we did vote against this motion? What could the fallout be?
Anytime we don't award to the top rated bidder, we open ourselves up for legal action.
Okay.
Correct? Am I correct? Yeah.
So my job as a counselor is to make the best decision given all the information. In this particular case, I don't have and I can't have all of the information in order to help me make this decision. So given the fact that the numbers are under budget and the procurement policy has been followed as it's currently written, I will be voting in favor of the recommendation.
Councillor Espy?
Just one more comment. It's not looking good for my position, I will admit that, but in the past, we have gone against the top scoring bidder, and I will say that just as an observation, if you read through the RFPs and the tenders that come out, does it not also have language in there that would state that if you have taken legal action against the city in any way, you would be disqualified from further contracts?
I don't know. I don't think I read that. I just read Ms. Friesen?
I can speak to that.
Councillor
I have it up in front
Doyle?
of me. So any proponent may be excluded for consideration in the award process for one or more of the following, and one of them is listed as involved in litigation or has been involved in litigation or a lawsuit with the city or its related organizations within the past 5 years.
So it can be any type of litigation, right? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Nichols?
Thank you, Worship. Before we get to any, I just want to thank administration for putting together, we asked for more detailed information, and I think that a lengthy piece of it was, it very much helped me in understanding where we were at in this process. And thank you for the clarity of this. We wanted some more information, and I believe that we got that very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Worship. First thing I want to say is there is nobody on this council we're all love local. Every one on the council that were elected here believe in supporting our businesses as much as we can. And so I put myself in that category, and I put all of us in that category. We all believe in it. But as Councillor Meyer said, we have a policy, and the policy is being followed by administration. And so as a councillor, as Councillor Doyle said, I don't have if I don't have all the information, which is seems like there are some gaps, then I have to rely on administration to give me the best advice. That's why I'm here. And if they are confident they've done the best job they can, that it's almost a duty for me to support that recommendation, which I will be doing. These are tough issues. We all want our businesses to thrive and get the most business, and there's lots of tenders the local person gets, I've seen. But we have to do due diligence, and in this case, I think due diligence has been done by our administration. I'll be supporting the recommendation.
So maybe just one more thing, and I think it's I'm going to put you on the spot a little because you are a new city manager. And so this was new that came, and all of a sudden we wanted more information. So obviously I would assume that you don't know your team completely yet. So you don't know. So what are your thoughts on the process? I'm curious.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I did look at this very carefully. I read the policy a number of times and interviewed the staff, what the process was that they went through. And I did feel that we have a very well-defined process internally for handling these issues. I think the staff do a great job of looking at the bids objectively and to the best of their ability evaluating them fairly. And that is something that is not always easy to do, and I've seen poor examples of it, and this is not one of them. This is quite a strong process.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is all those opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, we have our first item of new business, first reading of bylaw 25-8778, zoning amendment PC 21-25, Space Holdings Limited, 19th 7th Street Northwest.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know the applicants are here, and I know that they've been waiting patiently, so thank you for that. The issue, of course, Council, is to Planning and Economic Development Committee. It's just a rezoning, or sorry, not just, it is a rezoning application by Space Holdings Limited for the property known as 7th Street Northwest. What the applicant would like to do is to commence the zoning amendment process by rezoning the above listed property from an R1 residential single family zone to C3 Avenue Commercial Zone. The City of Portage la Prairie zoning bylaw 218724, and by giving bylaw number 258778 first reading. Obviously, alternatives are to give first reading and then to advertise, which we'll go through in just a minute, or to not give the first reading. The property in question is, as I described previously, the applicant would like to turn the property into a parking surface lot. A similar request had been approved in the past as follows. The minutes are there for your reference. The Portage la Prairie Development Plan states the following. I'll only go through the headings, and it does fall within these areas is the downtown corridor uses, the neighborhood area interface. The application, if goes through first reading, will be circulated to the province for review and comment after the first reading. The application has been circulated to the various city departments for the request of a plan to be seen to confirm how snow clearing work would be done, ensuring there is fencing boards to stop lights from shining into neighborhood houses. As per Section 74 of the Planning Act, Council shall indicate its intention to enact a zoning bylaw amendment by giving it first reading and then proceed with the public notice. With that said, is the administrative recommendation, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie give bylaw number 258778 first reading, and that public notice be provided as defined in Section 168 of the Planning Act.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments from council? No? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next item of new business. Award tender for the supply of treatment chemicals for the water treatment plant. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, what we have in front of us is we're looking to award the tender of supply of water treatment chemicals for the City of Portage. The issue here is to award the 12-month contract supply of various chemicals for the water treatment plant as specified in tender number 25 OPS 022.
Councillor Nichols, I'm just going to make, no, you go ahead. I'm just making note that Councillor Massey's stepped away. So, okay, you go ahead though.
Should I go on without him?
Yeah, you can go on.
Okay, thank you. So the issue here is to, and I think I've said that, the administrative recommendation is to award the tender for the supply of water treatment chemicals to the companies with the highest points as per city procurement policy. The tender was posted on Merck's website and electronically posted on the city's website. 11 copies of the tender were sent out and 7 submissions were received. The tender closed at 2 p.m. on Friday, May 2nd at 2025. The tender followed procurement process with incorporated sustainability and best value bid. The rate criteria were set out at 10% for sustainability factors and 90% for pricing. Contributing to the total point value, the recommended resolution indicates the bidders with the highest rating for each chemical. Now you can see the list in front of you, and it's lengthy. There's 10, and it would put my vocabulary to another test here. But I'm going to, we're just going to look through for lime. The company that was submitted for that, potassium permanganate, the company that submitted for that in the points, chlorine, fluoride, and on to 10. So council in front of you is a clear define of where we were in terms of the prices that were, and there's a number of companies that were submitted and awarded. It wasn't, there's I think 3 in total that got awardment. The contract is to supply the water treatment plant chemicals for a period of 12 months. From June 1st, 2025 to May 31st, 2026, and will be issued for each chemical individually. Bidders are required to guarantee submitted prices until May 31st, 2026. Some chemicals are only shipped in bulk quantities, and as we go through this, the total combined cost for all the 2025 tender chemicals is $2,291,521.50. The budgeted amount was $2,636,760. So we are under budget there, which is nice to see. So it is administration recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie award contracts to the supply of treatment chemicals for the water treatment plant for a 12-month period as specified in tender 25 OPS 022 to the following companies for the respective chemical product for their submitted tender price, excluding GST. And you have the list there, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Nichols, seconded by Councillor Porter. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. We have one item of old business, the 2025 financial plan for second and third reading and tax levy bylaw 25-8777, Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee.
Thank you, Worship and colleagues. This evening we are to look at second and third reading of our 2025 financial plan and tax levy bylaw. I'm not going to go through all the narrative here. I think we had a good discussion and heard a lot of that last council meeting. Just a couple of things I do want to highlight to make sure people understand exactly the changes this year. As you know, we require $14.3 million in property taxes to cover our expenditures that are not funded from other sources. So that's sort of the levy that we need to raise. We are really investing in infrastructure, as you can see, $7.1 million for general capital projects, $106.8 million for utility. Of course, the big one there is the water treatment plant, which will be a big commitment of this council, but that's going to ensure long-term sustainability and growth for our community. This was a reassessment year, and you can see residential went up 8.7 and commercial 11.9. Now this year, you can see the three categories: municipal, school division, provincial education support levy. We control the municipal. And this year, as you can see in the chart below, we lowered our mill rate to, we chose to lower the mill rate so that we could help our residents and not have the impact on property taxes as much as if we had kept it the same. And that's, the mill rate is there. You can see it went down 1.127. So when it shakes out, the whole, the residential properties this year will see a 2.86 increase in gross municipal taxes. So that's what we have put forward to our citizens. Commercial properties will experience a 5.9 increase in gross municipal taxes. And then as you can see, the other, what affects all that, of course, are the major changes, and I stress this, the provincial government made to the education credits. And this is really important because I know our staff in finance will probably take a lot of the questions about this, saying, why did the municipality, why did the city do this? But it is provincial policy. And you can see the big changes. The new homeowners affordability credit will replace the education property tax credit. Only principal residences will be eligible for this credit. And you can get up to $1,500. So that's a $1,500 credit off your school taxes. So if that sort of comes out, you don't have to apply for it. It comes right off your property tax statement when you get it. You'll see it there. Commercial properties. This is the other big change. Provincial property tax credits and rebates will no longer apply to commercial properties. So when you put all that information, the reassessment, what we've asked for, the school board has asked, and what the province changed, you can see a house last year assessed at $250,000. This year is assessed at $272,000. You can see from last year to this year, they're going to actually pay less taxes. Less taxes. So that's important to note. Commercial, because of the changes that they do not receive any of the education credits, you'll see how that impacts them. They will pay for a $560,000 assessed commercial business this year will pay $1,706. So you can see some of the changes there of how it impacts commercial and our homeowners. I won't go through the rest other than to say we will be having quite a discussion over the next little while about our water treatment expansion. There's a lot of approvals we have to get yet for the borrowing, the debenture, and from Public Utilities Board. But I think as I mentioned to council at the last meeting, I think it's a good financial plan. We're investing in infrastructure. We're investing in safety for our residents. We're investing in roads. And I think when all's said and done, I think the impact, at least the municipal side, we did a very good job as council to make sure the tax was held at 2.86%, $68 a year. That's the impact. So with that, I would move that bylaw number 25-877, being a bylaw of the City of Portage la Prairie to authorize the levying and raising of property taxes for school and municipal purposes for the year ending December 31, 2025, be given second reading.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Worship. I would move that bylaw number 25-8777 be given third and final reading, finally passed, signed, and sealed.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor? And that's carried. We will adjourn council at 7:59 p.m. And we will just take a 5-minute break here before we go into committee.
Oh, yeah.
had to change in some of our direction and fundraising and some of the priorities. And one of the big changes in our strategic plan is to help with staff recruitment and training in the health system. So we'll be looking at those on a case-by-case basis, but that's a whole new initiative by the foundation. You may have heard the name is changing to the Portage Regional Healthcare Foundation to better reflect that we're really looking at our health of our region and making sure that we are addressing the best health care we can get for our residents here in Portage area. You may have heard some of the, and I'm very proud to talk about these, the four things that were, we had others, but the four big ones that we funded are deluxe chemotherapy and dialysis treatment chairs. This features warming and articulating features to make the journey more comfortable, and something that I know will be well used here in our community. Gym equipment for the staff gym to enhance staff wellness. Portable X-ray with diagnostic radiography plate. This will allow physicians to see images seconds after the exposure, resulting in a much quicker diagnosis and treatment. And lastly, which I think is something really great to hear, is additional beds and stretchers for all departments, ensuring that every bed in the new hospital is brand new. So those were a couple of the things we funded in our last board meeting, and I'm sure all of you may have seen the media, but I just wanted to make council aware of the changes in the direction of the foundation, and I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more as the next year, but that was sort of a major news announcement that we made for our community. So that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you. Just a comment. It's just another testament to the generosity of our community and our region, because all of that is done with donor dollars or fundraising dollars, and it's pretty amazing that the foundation can continue to do that. Incredible. Okay. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. And in committee, I would like to just take this opportunity. Last council meeting, we had the quarterly reports. Ms. O'Leary, our Economic Development Officer, was enjoying a well-deserved holiday in Ireland. And I haven't got my postcard yet, but I'm waiting. But with that said, we did go through the PRED report, and I think as council is aware that there is a tourism committee, the Portage Regional Tourism Committee. Alluded to a little bit at last council meeting, but I do understand that we do have a coordinator now hired, and I was hoping that maybe Ms. O'Leary had a quick opportunity just to maybe introduce who that might be or have a conversation about her.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Last Monday, May 5th, we were successful in attaining Callie MacArthur as PRED's Tourism and Marketing Coordinator. Callie brings excellent skill sets for the region and a passion and love for the region of Portage la Prairie, so we're very excited to have her on our team, and she is located at the PRED office.
Thank you very much, Ms. O'Leary, and I too know Ms. MacArthur, and I do know the passion and the skill sets that she'll bring. I'm extremely proud of this tourism committee and the stakeholders and the work that certainly PRED has put into it. So thank you, Your Worship.
I agree, and I think if we have any naysayers, just send them to the PRED office. For every person in there who loves this community will change their mind. So thank you. Congratulations, Callie. Okay, Community Services Committee, Councillor SB.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a few things to talk about, but I think we've kept Kathy McFarland waiting long enough. And I would like to invite her up through Your Worship to give the Communities in Bloom presentation.
Ms. McFarland, I feel that every time you come to do this, we make you wait. So.
Well, I actually think this might be the longest I waited. But we'll put it this way: we've left a very exciting topic to the end of the meeting, because I'm sure some of you are feeling a little bit sleepy now because it's a long meeting, I believe. Yeah. Unless your meetings are normally this long.
About this, yeah.
Oh, okay. So we are here at this time again to talk to you about the Communities in Bloom program that the city participates in. And we're going to focus our discussion tonight, or what we talk to you about, on anything that's new. Because we have participated in this program for the last number of years. And as you are mostly aware, we have won the maximum 5 blooms for the last 2 years. So we think we can raise the bar again this year and come up with some other ideas. So moving ahead, I would hit this button or just the middle button. Okay, thanks. Technically challenged since I retired, apparently. Okay, one of the big changes that has been made this year is we have been asking the Manitoba Communities in Bloom organization, the provincial organization, if we could put a collaboration together, the city of Portage la Prairie and Southport. Southport doesn't qualify as a separate municipality, and that's how Communities in Bloom defines the separate application. So in the back of your mind, if you were wondering, well, what about the RM of Portage? They are actually a municipality, so they definitely can apply for the program, but that would be a separate application. I think that Southport is corporation, non-profit, no share. I believe I looked it up on the internet. So we do a lot of things with Southport, and we just think this is one more thing that we can do with Southport. So at the presentation of the judges' results last fall, if you might remember that, we said that the theme next year, and this is this year now, is edible gardens. And if you have been grocery shopping lately, you probably realize that having some sort of an edible garden, even if it's just tomatoes in a pot, is a great thing. Not only does it taste better, it certainly is a lot more economical to grow your own vegetables. So we're asking people who don't do that already, and we do have a lot of residents in our communities that do, to plant a row or two of edible gardens. Last year we participated in the Scott's Miracle Grow Best Garden Selection. It was a great program, didn't cost this Communities in Bloom program. And by the way, just in case you don't know, Communities in Bloom for the city is supported by PCRC, and PCRC applies with their grant application to the city for funding for Communities in Bloom. And last year was our first year we participated in the Scott's Miracle Grow program. No cost at all to the city. Fairly nice signage on metal posts were provided, and you probably saw some of those in front yards across the city, and they're welcome to put those up again this next year. The new signage will have a joint logo on it for both the city and for Southport, and we will be awarding 2 yards a week. We tend to confine ourselves to front yards, even though a lot of people have beautiful backyards, but we don't want people trucking into your backyard if you're not expecting them to be there, sort of a private area. But the winners of this contest, and there's many winners, get a full size of Miracle Grow, the shake fertilizer, and also the granular that you mix with water. So the 2 full sizes of those, the retail price of that is probably $50 or more. And all of this is provided from Scott's, and it gets a lot of mileage within the community as well. And at the Communities in Bloom Manitoba conference this last year, we showcased pictures of all the yards who won. So, and a lot of those people came to the conference too. So lots of side benefits there. The criteria by which a community is judged will remain the same this next year. And we've said this before, but let me reiterate that it is not about the flowers. I mean, that's the stuff we like looking at, is all the floral things. But it is a holistic approach to the community. It's a good fit for Pratt and tourism, really. And it showcases how much you can do within your community for the residents and also for visitors. That shows that we take a lot of pride in our community, and a lot of things that people do as a volunteer within their community enriches the lives of others. We've been very adamant in our community that the things that we do to support the Communities in Bloom program is mainly run by volunteers, although we do appreciate all the work that the city does. And this year will be the first year that we'll be able to showcase what's happened on Saskatchewan Avenue. We did have judges last year that asked about it, and they did have a look at it, but we just think this year's going to be just so much better to show them what's happened there. Every year we have 2 judges that come from the Manitoba Association. And what has happened for me this year is I'm actually on the board of directors now of the Manitoba Communities in Bloom organization. Apparently I had a few extra minutes in my time, so I just needed to sit on one more board. And curiously enough, I'm not the treasurer. So, you know, when you're a CPA, they always ask you to be the treasurer, right? Yeah. So this time I get to just do the fun stuff on that board. But I do know that there will be 2 judges coming to our community. We're really hoping that we're going to see Colleen Zacharias. Some of you may know Colleen Zacharias. She writes a regular article, a full-page article in the Free Press every Saturday, and she does have a online newsletter called the Winnipeg Gardener. If you don't subscribe to that, it has a lot of really practical hints in there. And she was recently at the Manitoba Horticultural Association conference and gave a talk on how yards can look. And she has had her fair share of looks at different yards in Manitoba, and there is some beautiful gems out there, and a lot of those are in the Portage area. I'm going to just flip over this one because one of our other committee members, Yvette Cuthbert, is going to talk about that. A lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of communities, but some communities have decided to do something with their Communities in Bloom program this year to support Canadian patriotism and have flags and whatever. We felt that it was a little too late in the season to do that. I know that the operations department puts their tender out for their flowers quite early in the year. In fact, it might even be in the winter. And so the chances of the tender having red and white flowers were maybe slim to none. However, it's not going to be part of Communities in Bloom, although we would encourage the city, if you wanted, in your hanging baskets along Saskatchewan Avenue, you may want to get some smaller Canadian flags and put those in the baskets. And if they're well anchored in the baskets, I think they will still be there by the time the fall comes too. Perhaps our federal representative will be able to help that you don't even have to buy those flags. Okay, so before we go to questions, I'm going to go to the other PowerPoint presentation, which is something special about sunflowers. So, Yvette.
Hi. Last fall, I was walking down our beautiful Crescent Lake pathway, which I love. And there just happened to be about 3-4 sunflowers. I don't know whether the birds got the seeds there or if a person put them there. They were right on the edge of the lake, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and they were just lovely. And I know we're going through all kinds of turmoil in this world, but I still think that nothing really compares to the Ukraine and Gaza and stuff. And I thought it would be lovely if we have a lot of community members that have backgrounds in the Ukraine, that if we let them know that we haven't forgotten them either. And I thought, what a nice way to let them know that is by planting sunflowers. And can we go to the next one? Yeah, next one. So this is some ways I thought that we could possibly, some areas that we could possibly plant them. You know, people's front yards, schoolyard fences, you know, by the windmill, pergola. There's lots of different places, and I just thought it would just really brighten things and be a really nice reminder for the people of the Ukraine that we still think about them and their turmoil that they're going through. And the next slide. So we were hoping that they could pick up some seeds here. The Communities in Bloom has made several little packets up, and so just for places where people could come pick them up here, possibly at the library. We'll be providing some to schools and the administration office at Southport. And then I just put they're not hard to plant, and they're easy maintenance. They need some watering at the beginning, and we got the ones that are 5 feet high, something like that. 4 to 5 feet high, and they're edible ones. The first ones we were offered were just for the birds, but Communities in Bloom is about edible gardens, so we've got edible ones now for humans, and I think it would be great. And I think there's one more. So yeah, we're just, we think it would be wonderful to get involved, and even if, it's like a yellow ribbon around a tree. You don't have to plant a lot. You can just plant 1 or 2 or whatever in your front yard someplace, but it would just be a nice nod to that we're still thinking of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a shameless little plug here. I am having an art exhibit. I'll just pass an invitation on.
Thank you.
Pass it down. Thank you.
Okay, so just to clarify, we're not expecting the city to plant sunflowers in their public areas. We do know that you had Stantec give you, as part of their contract, you did a lot of perennials last year, so you'll want to see how those all survive this year. But we do think there's many people with yards in town. Doesn't have to be your vegetable garden, it can be anywhere, that you will want to put a few sunflowers, and it definitely honors all the people of Ukrainian descent in our community and also the number of Ukrainian immigrants we have. So we have packaged up 500 little seed packets of sunflowers. We don't think everybody will need to come to the city or the library to get free seeds. They will get some seeds wherever they normally get their seeds, Canadian Tire or wherever, kind of thing. But we definitely would like to encourage that, and it certainly goes along with the theme of edible gardens, as Yvette said. Do you have any questions of either of us?
So are you, with the sunflowers, are you linked to the national program? Because there is a national program for this, and you can actually register what you plant, right? So that we can talk about Portage being involved in it if you don't have that link already.
Are you talking about the Bee Friendly?
No, it's Sunflowers for Ukraine, it's called.
You know what? I did not know about that, Sherilyn. So we need to, is that something you can
I'll
send
send you
us?
the link, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because then you can register all your Portage ones and we can be a part of it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Well, we're all about getting more exposure for Portage la Prairie.
Yeah, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any questions for the community? You have a microphone, please, thank you.
I don't need a microphone. I just want to comment that you guys do such a wonderful job, and you just bring such spirit into the community and beauty. So, just great work, and I'm looking forward to those sunflowers. And you're right, I did see some in Crescent Lake last year.
Beautiful.
Good. We think that we take a holistic approach to greening up our city. We're very pleased to see that the city has a long-term plan to do green projects in the city. We make sure we bring those forward to the judges. They're really amazed about what's going on here. And we often have had the mayor, and we've had both Jocelyn and Carly come and speak to the mayor, not the mayor, the judges, when they've come on their Judges' Day, and they're really interested in what's happening here in Portage la Prairie.
Kathy, can I just suggest, and I don't know if you saw the article, but I'd be happy to sit with you and share the partnership we did with Yellow Quill School about the green space, because I think that would be a great addition to let the judges know about.
Exactly. That is definitely perfect for us. And I know PCRC has their veggie boxes, and we're open to all sorts of ideas that people come up with. Yeah, we would definitely include that.
Councillor Meyer, did you have something?
Yes, thank you, Your
Yeah.
Worship. I just had a comment, and through Your Worship, of course, to our presenters. You're speaking to a guy that has trouble keeping plastic flowers alive. So I just really wanted to comment, first of all, to Yvette Cuthbert, who I've certainly known an awful long time, and just really appreciate the passion that she brings to our arts and our cultural within this community. I know as one, and I'm sure all council, we stand with Ukraine, and to see this kind of additional aspect put into our community, although I maybe not encourage on public property unless you talk about stuff, but in your own yards and everything else, absolutely. I know I will be doing that as well. So, Ms. Cuthbert, thank you so much for presenting on that part. And then, of course, to Ms. McFarland. As everybody knows, Ms. McFarland has kind of got the greenest thumb I think I've ever seen. I don't encourage you to go by her yard, but if you do and peek over the fence, you'll know exactly what I mean. But I just wanted to comment, she's been responsible for Communities in Bloom, or been on that committee, or runs a committee, I'm not quite exactly sure, but for a long time. It does an incredible job. In addition, she's responsible somewhat for the pollinator garden that we have in front of the windmill. And this year, of course, she's also, for a number of years, has been looking after the Rotary Duck Pond and deals with all the plantings in and around there. So when you walk around our community in some of those areas and you see some of the spaces and the flowers, these are two extremely incredible ladies to thank for that. And I, for one, which I'm sure all council does, appreciate that an awful lot. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I had to do something when I retired, right?
Yeah.
So. Which I don't seem to have any problem occupying myself about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next up, I have a small update. We had a Parks Committee meeting last week. Some news about Simplot Central Park. Watch for benches, signage, paths, trees, and washroom coming soon. And that park should be wrapping up within months, I would say. And also, Kim Weckdahl is in charge of fundraising for the wheelchair accessible swing. Watch for some big news on that in the very near future.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Thank you.
And I will call upon, through your worship, Councillor Nichols, about the Fort Lorraine Museum first quarter report.
Thank you, Councillor Espy. Through your worship, to council, and I know you well know, I sit on the Fort Lorraine Museum board, and they had a quarterly report, and I just feel that there's a big spirit going on out there, a lot of good work being done, and I just thought I'd bring some updates to council today on what some of the scheduled events and what's going on with our board out there and some of the things going forward. So exciting, and we got to welcome two new board members, Helen Hogarth and Megan Romp is now on our board out there with us as well. We've hired a new fundraising and outreach coordinator. Cindy McDonald has taken that role on for us, so we're looking forward to Cindy and her wonderful ideas of going forward for fundraising out there. I'm just going to allude a little bit to concessions and coffee stand. I'm not going to go any further. We'll release that. I'm going to keep you on your toes about that. Summer staff start May 7th, and our opening date is May 17th out there. So it's a 58th season, and now I got some dates for you to mark down. I see Councillor Portage writing away here, so I'll get some of these dates in her notes. June 14th. We're going to celebrate Father's Day weekend, and we got a big event that Emma Enns-McIver has been doing a wonderful job in putting this together along with the board. And some of the things that are going to go on is a mini market. So this is on the Saturday, so not to take away from the Sunday on Father's Day. But yeah, mini market, bucket golf. Councillor Meyer, this could be a challenge for you. Alice Chalmers tours. There's going to be barbecue, vintage cars, and the last on the list is that I'm really looking for is hot shaves for fathers by Meraki, a real hot shave. So this is something that I'll sign Councillor Massey up for and make sure that he's there for that. And then on June 28th, we are going to, this is a date where we're going to join us for a day of site cleaning, gardening, housekeeping, and repairs and volunteers. There'll be a barbecue and a special project, which I also got to just hold off on announcing. So some of the things going on at Fort Lorraine Museum, and I'm just honored to be a part of it, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the free shave. I'll look forward to that. Just a question. I know the city and the RM did increase funding for the Portage la Prairie Museum, but as a board member, have you seen sort of the impact that's had for them? I know that was a big ask for them, and I know we did increase some of the funding. What's your perspective of is that what it's been able to do for the museum?
Thank you, Councillor Massey. Through your worship, it was, I sit around at this table on the board, and I'm the single representative for the city on it, and it's run by our partners. The RM is they take the lion's share piece of that board, and I felt pretty good in going forward with a little bit of an increased ask in terms of the budget, and there is some really good stuff going on out there that I can see where the board is going to put that money to good use going forward. And there's some bigger plans that for that space. To mention, getting into venues, like a venue out there for weddings and that type of purposes. So, yeah, stay tuned. There's some investments that are going to be going forward, I think, in terms of grants and how we've helped them out and do a wonderful job of that. Yeah, there's some nice stuff on the horizon, some really good upcoming projects.
Councillor Espy, I have something to add to your thing because Councillor Nichols made me think of it, and we don't have another council meeting in May, so we have Bike Week coming up for May 24th to 30th is happening every year. Bike Week happens with lots of great events. The Active Transportation Committee in partnership with PCRC, a bunch of different places put this on. There's a gravel grumble, a scavenger hunt and lunch, a Haunting Spaces historical ride, the ever popular cookie ride. If you've never been on it, it's all about cookies, Nicole, and you're a biker. Sunrise ride and the back to school challenge. And then there's a PCRC photo challenge. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, Bike Week 2025. Thank you. Oh yeah, there's a grand opening of Junkyard Dogs Activity Park on May 31st, 2025.
I think that's all for me, Your Worship, unless...
That's it. Thank you, Councillor Espy. Okay, Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing for committee at this evening.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Has nothing to report, but I would like to mention that next week is National Public Works Week, and that's from May 18th to the 24th. And Public Works Week is a week to recognize the importance of the public works in our society. Many times, public work professionals will never meet those whose lives have been impacted because when things are going right, no one knows that public work is there. Yet with or without fanfare, Public Works is ever present, working in the background to advance the quality of life for everyone. And I'd also like to mention that we have our Public Works barbecue coming up.
Yeah, internally.
Internally, yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's, yeah, I'm not advertising it. To thank the workers. And so that's the start of our kickoff for Public Works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't say where it's held. Okay. And I'd also like to mention that Touch a Truck event is coming up on May 22nd from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the BDO Center. So, and also that the operations department will be arranging to have a wheel loader and a street sweeper at the event.
And it's not just for little people. It's very fun. So you should go. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Porter. And Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one thing I wanted to touch on tonight is the fact that on Tuesday, May 13th, so tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m., the City of Portage will be sending out emergency notification test messages. The messages will be distributed via email or text. to all cell phones registered with Connect Portage, or by voice message for those landlines that are listed. So the purpose behind Connect Portage, it's a mass communication system that allows the city to send out important safety information and provide direction on what to do in the event of severe weather, tornadoes, train derailments, or any other emergency that might require direction or support for the citizens. So this is a scheduled test of our system. In the event of a true emergency, Connect Portage will be used to contact residents and provide further information, such as what areas might be affected, evacuation notices, muster points, etc. So this test will take place tomorrow, again at 2 p.m. It will be during the workday, so please ensure, businesses, please ensure your staff and individuals let your family know that, so they are all aware that they may receive this message on their wireless device or a voice message through a landline. So if you haven't already signed up and you'd like to sign up to Connect Portage, you could visit the city's website to do so. So testing the Connect Portage emergency notification system, again, is an important integral part of ensuring that our system works effectively and all recipients are familiar with the notification process should a true emergency.
Thank you. Just under public safety, I just wanted to, we recognized it on social media, but May the 4th is International Firefighters Day. And I just wanted to recognize and thank them for their good work and hard work in our community. Definitely, I can say in this province, they've been on my mind lately with all of the wildfires that we've been having, and I often think it's quite the thing that our firefighters run in towards danger where we're all running away from it. So we have to thank them for that, and just hope that they manage to stay safe, and cross our fingers for some major rain happening in our province in the next few days. Councillor Espy.
I've been seeing, thank you, Your Worship. I've been seeing a lot of communities as I've been traveling around the province that have fire bans in effect right now. Do we have one by chance?
Currently no is a short answer. I know that the RM doesn't have a fire ban bylaw, and they follow when the province puts out a bylaw. So, I mean, that's where we're seeing a lot of our fires is in the RM currently. So, yeah. Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question, Councillor Doyle, and I, big believer in Connect Portage and getting information. It's great. I've signed up, but I don't know if you know what % of our residents are hooked up to that. But if there's something we can do to, and I know you're promoting it here, but it's so important. Like, we're facing more and more emergencies. That's the reality of whether it's our weather or derailments. But is there any way is there a public campaign or something we can do to get people? I know you can't force people to sign up, but I mean, just seems such an important thing for our city,
Yep, for sure. I don't know the number myself, but we can definitely push it through social media, and maybe our local media will catch on to that. I see some hands up over there, so that would be great. That's the best way for us to get the message out, is through various forms of media, and for any viewers who might be watching the meeting tonight. So if anyone has any questions on the system, please feel free to ask a member of council or any administration, and we can guide you through the process.
Good question. Anything else, anybody? Okay, we will adjourn committee at 8:42 p.m. Thank you, everyone.